Peter Rabbit is all over the place. Much like the anthropomorphic animals themselves, the movie has a soft, furry, cuddly, harmless exterior with a whimsical orchestral score. But beneath that lies all the trappings of a modern live-action animation hybrid, with present-day self-aware humor, choreographed dance sequences, pop culture references, fourth wall breaking, and an aggressive edge. Viewers looking for a sweet yet suspenseful feature-length retelling of the classic children's bedtime story may think that this film is an abomination. Peter Rabbit is a reboot-quel of the old tale, taking place after its events, but also retelling the events during a brief prologue. There's no simple, listen to your mother, lesson here. Instead, the story has been retooled to allow for moral ambiguity. Is Peter in the right? Is young Thomas McGregor in the right? And the lesson is now about getting over past prejudices or preconceived notions and learning to share. But the movie leaves out a very important part of sharing: asking. In addition, the film's a bit schizophrenic. Sometimes it's a delicate, loving tribute to its source material, complete with hand-drawn illustrations and quaint narration. Other times, there's meta-commentary, extended fight scenes, Home Alone trap antics, and some disturbing images of presumably dead humans. Based on the trailer, I got what I expected. I can understand why some viewers will think Peter Rabbit is just a cute, pleasant movie with some adult humor, and why others would find it pretty twisted. Not having kids myself, I didn't have a strong reaction either way. This review will contain spoilers for Acts 1 and 2. A timestamp for my star rating and pros cons chart is in the description. Peter Rabbit takes place at the McGregor Garden Estate in the English countryside. A talking, knitted top-wearing animal community lives in peace and comfort, so long as they follow one rule: never set foot in Old Man McGregor's garden. Peter Rabbit, a rebellious orphan boy whose father was baked into a pie for trespassing on McGregor's property, holds no such reverence for the estate, continuing to defy its boundaries and retrieving delicious vegetables for his 3 sisters and friend. Whenever the young rabbits do get into trouble, Mr. McGregor's neighbor, Ms. B, is there to stick up for them and nurture them. One day, Old Man McGregor passes away, and the animals rejoice in celebration until McGregor's great-nephew Thomas shows up. He's younger, more clever, and just as angry. Coming from a life in the city, Thomas views the animals as vermin to be exterminated if they enter his property. Even worse, the rabbit's protector, Miss B, begins to fancy him. Will young Peter Rabbit learn to cope with this change? Or will he be driven to take action based on Thomas's lineage? The latter. I walked into my theater auditorium 2 minutes late. The first images I saw were Peter Rabbit running past the talking toad with a fishing rod. Based on context clues, I assumed the movie opened with a storybook animation transitioning into the tranquil English countryside, which is abruptly interrupted by little Peter Rabbit scurrying off toward Mr. McGregor's garden. From here, as I warned previously, anyone expecting a sweet retelling of the children's book is in for many surprises. It is revealed that Peter Rabbit's mother passed away of natural causes. He's now an orphan. Peter's more responsible 3 sisters are now eager to partake in his mischievousness, and Peter still hasn't learned a thing. I interpreted this line to mean that the movie is a sequel to the book, meaning Peter and his siblings are a bit older now. Instead of honoring the wise words of their now dead mother, or learning from the harsh demise of their father, they all continue to disrespect Mr. McGregor's property rights and act insulted when he defends said property. Peter Rabbit does not stop at stealing either. He's got vengeance on the brain. Noticing Mr. McGregor is bent over, exposing a plumber's crack, he proceeds to violate the old man's anus with a big sharp carrot. Ms. B jumps to their defense. They're just a bunch of cute rabbits. What's mine is theirs. We share everything around here. That's nice of you, but that doesn't mean Mr. McGregor has to do the same thing. The next day, Peter Rabbit crosses into the garden again and is caught by Mr. McGregor. Once and for all. Then, the old man has a heart attack. Peter Rabbit walks right up beside the dead man's face. Not sure if he's gone, Peter shoves his own paw into the corpse's glazed over, lifeless eyeball, moving it back a little bit in its socket. Instead of being overwhelmed by the grave reality of death, death, Peter is overjoyed, taking credit as a hero for finally killing that farmer, ridding the wildlife of that grumpy old man. To celebrate, the animals ransack the dead man's estate while throwing endless frat parties.
The house is yours. Do as you please.
Shortly after, we are introduced to the real protagonist of the film, Mr. Thomas McGregor, played by Domhnall Gleeson. Unlike the titular Peter Rabbit, we are shown, rather than told, Thomas's backstory. His values and goals are relatable. Thomas is a workaholic manager of Harrods department store in London, and he enjoys helping and making things perfect for the customers. Though, he's pretty uptight, bossy, and prone to micromanagement, showing employees how to properly clean the toilets to the point where you can drink out of them. After years of faithful employment, Thomas is passed over for the big promotion due to office nepotism. He's justifiably wound up, throws a tantrum, and is fired. The poor guy. He does catch a break, though, when he discovers that his great-uncle, Old Man McGregor, left him the McGregor Garden Estate in his will. Thomas now has a clear goal: to spruce up the expensive property, put it on the housing market, and invest the profits into starting his own children's toy store. A little bit of General Hux slips out as he adds, preferably across the street from Harrods, so that they can be a witness to their own downfall. What's not to like? The dude was wronged, karma favored him, now he has entrepreneurial aspirations. Well, Peter Rabbit trashed his new property. Thousands of dollars in damages. No duh! Thomas thinks they are all vermin. That is a horrible first impression. Now, does that make Thomas's follow-up actions right? No. Well, now there's a debate to be had about the sentient nature of the wildlife. Thomas does not know they are intelligent beings, and it's not as if the animals are explicitly Ms. B's pets either. The rabbits just come and go as they please. All right, for the sake of the film, I'll grant the rabbits human rights. In which case, when another human trespasses and steals, the property owner has the legal right to defend his or her property. In some places, with lethal force. Granted, this right may not exist in England, and Thomas does subsequently cross the line by kidnapping Peter Rabbit's loyal, plump compatriot Benjamin, attempting to drown him in a burlap sack in the river. It's the cycle of anger all over again. Rename the film to 5 Rabbits Outside London, England. Both Peter Rabbit and Thomas McGregor are in the wrong, but the storytelling oddly made me favor the quote-unquote villain, Thomas. Peter Rabbit seems to have a bloodlust vendetta against the whole McGregor family for what one man did to his father. Gone is the curious, rebellious little boy from the original book, replaced by a smug, conniving preteen that tortures Thomas with Home Alone-style traps in his own home. Peter gloats on multiple occasions when he thinks he has murdered Thomas. Toward the end of the movie, Thomas has Peter in a stranglehold, yelling, "I am not a bad guy! You did this to me!" Damn straight! You tell him, man. It's more than just vengeance, though. Peter is also jealous, as Thomas begins to form a sweet, loving relationship with the rabbit's caretaker, Ms. B. Played by Byrne, Ms. B is a kind-hearted painter who doesn't appreciate dishonesty, mainly because she worries that she's being dishonest with herself, forever thinking she can make it as an artist. Interesting, but her professional story arc is underplayed, existing mostly in the background until the end of the movie. A scene or two more of her gaining confidence in her craft would have been appreciated. Mostly, she exists as the go-between for the Peter and Thomas conflict. She helps to unwind Thomas, and Peter worries losing Ms. B to Thomas will be like losing another surrogate mother. Touching. Except he spells this out quickly and sarcastically as a self-aware joke to poke fun at his own character arc. Yep. Peter Rabbit, the movie, is filled with meta, we know we're in a movie, humor. These kinds of jokes work well for the Muppets because they are performers, always putting on stage shows and trying to make it in Hollywood. It gels well with their showbiz roots. Peter Rabbit attempts the same type of humor with a what you normally expect in a storybook angle. The narration will state, you'd expect this to happen, but here's what actually happened. And, well, we know how this will turn out, so let's just show the highlights. For more examples, Peter Rabbit and Benjamin have a conversation pointing out, that's my character flaw. Get your own character flaw. After an action scene, Peter declares, "What a just barely believable sequence that was." A character yells, "Don't explain the joke," at the beginning of the film. It fell on deaf ears. The movie also points out the ridiculousness of the rabbits wearing jackets. When Thomas is pantsed by Peter, he remarks, I was certain Miss B would walk in at this exact moment. Earlier, Peter Rabbit starts insulting Thomas for having blueberry allergies. Then, clarifying that he knows a lot of people do have serious medical conditions when eating certain foods. After acknowledging this, Peter says, "So don't send me any letters," turns to the camera, and winks. All of this humor outgrew its welcome for me by the time they did the "Why are you guys walking in slow-mo?" gag. Again, the children's book is far more sincere in tone. More humility and earnestness would have went a long way. Additionally, Peter Rabbit, voiced by James Corden, adapts the late-night host's adult wit, sophistication, dietary advice, and fashion opinions. Do little boys today really use terms like, "This is a safe space"? Peter's character traits flip-flop between those of his voice talent and the little rebellious boy from the book. Very inconsistent. Speaking of inconsistent, the animal talking rules. Peter Rabbit, the movie, writes itself into a corner at one point, so the film just decides that the rabbits can talk to the humans. What? That makes no sense. There were many times that the rabbits were yelling around Thomas in the garden or right outside of a window, and no one heard them. This had, naturally, led me to assume that the humans can't understand rabbit language. To us, they were just making squeaking noises. It's a typical idea from other talking animal children's films. Then, the movie acts like it was using the Toy Story rule set the whole time. The rabbits were speaking English and just hiding that fact from the humans. But that is incongruent with the rest of the film. Having said all of that, Peter Rabbit, the movie, is okay. I probably would have enjoyed it if I was a kid. Half the time, it has a certain innocent, gentle tone, as if it's an old-fashioned G-rated family film. The scenes of Thomas and Miss B dating are endearing, if interrupted too frequently by the rabbits. Benjamin is an amusing Samwise type that eventually wises up to Peter's bad behavior. The three sisters, Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, arguing over who's the oldest and rightful decision-maker is sure to delight younger viewers. Particularly Cottontail, who's pegged as the cute one, but in predictable fashion, turns out to be a warrior. There's an uppity pig chap rapping birds, and a funny subplot about a rooster becoming a father. Adults may get a kick out of some of the jokes, or, like me, have a fun time pretending that Thomas is General Hux, going to war with those bunch of rabbits. I swear, he slips into that commanding Hux yell so often in this movie. As well, the animation on the CGI animals is impressive, with top-notch, realistic rendering and blending. There are a couple of nice hand-drawn segments and set designs that are directly inspired by the children's book's illustrations. Peter Rabbit's hole-in-the-tree home, in particular, gave me nostalgic deja vu. The movie is generally upbeat, short, and with pleasing outdoor environments. Your kids may actually want to play outside after watching this. While I spoke seriously about Old Man McGregor being violated and the youngsters not caring or being irresponsible, I recognize that that is realistic behavior to how kids would act without parental supervision and role models. I'm sure that a lot of little kids will really enjoy Peter Rabbit. It'll be Timmy's first meta joke, fourth wall breaking movie. Kind of like Rocky and Bullwinkle was one of my first growing up. They'll work their way up to Deadpool eventually. Little tykes. And there is a good message about learning to put behind past conflicts and share your wealth with others. Though, if I were a parent, I'd make sure my kids knew that both Thomas and Peter exhibited bad behavior in different ways, even if the movie paints Peter in a more positive light. Moreover, there is a very important aspect to Peter Rabbit's lesson that is overlooked. The film never addresses the fact that Peter and his animal friends were committing crimes. Stealing, trashing, and assaulting. Most egregiously, the movie neglects to mention property rights. And The concept of please and thank you. Just because Ms. B or anyone else is a nice person with an open door policy, that does not mean Thomas or anyone else also has to be okay with people coming and going on their property as they please. Peter and his animal friends have no right to take the vegetables from Mr. McGregor's land. That garden does not grow itself. Old Man McGregor and Thomas put in their own hard work to maintain that garden, and the rabbits are not entitled to just take the fruits of their labor. Peter Rabbit and his animal friends should have learned to respect the effort that goes into growing the vegetables and the right of Thomas to either freely share them or to sell them for profit. Additionally, if the movie is going to have Peter Rabbit be able to talk to humans, then the filmmakers could have at least followed it up with Peter realizing he needs to ask Thomas politely to share his property. Parents, please, if you haven't already, I don't mean to be preachy or condescending, teach your children to respect others' personal property, to ask with please, to accept a no response, and say thank you to a yes response, knowing that a yes is not a guarantee. Sharing is great, but it should not be forced on others or taken for granted. Then try to explain taxes another time. Yeesh! Talk about a contradiction. Overall, Peter Rabbit is a bit violent, tonally unbalanced, inconsistent in its character portrayals, and irreverent toward death, theft, and assault. On the other hand, it has a pleasant exterior, and the more aggressive aspects and pratfalls are sure to delight young kids. They're gonna shrug it off anyway. Is Peter Rabbit innocent fun? Is it sadistic and irresponsible? Well, I think maybe it's both. You decide. Flip a coin. I give Peter Rabbit 2.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't dislike it. I didn't like it. I think it's okay. Viewers looking for a sweet yet suspenseful? Hello, my name is Peter Rabbit. You baked my father. Prepare to die. The air conditioner started blowing. Okay, but I'm back. Begins to fancy him. I didn't turn off my phone. I don't care about what Jon Favreau's tweeting. And just hiding the fact from the... Ooh, excuse me. Hello, my name is Peter Rabbit. You baked my father. Prepare to die.
Stop saying that!
Old Man McGregor was Sam Neill?
The house is yours. Do as you please.
This is a safe space.